Hi, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us on this episode of the Blockcast, where we interview innovative blockchain companies and how they plan to impact global industry with blockchain technology. And we're live from Paris today, and I'd like to give a warm welcome to Constanza Gomez Mont. She is the co-founder and director of C-Minds, a think and do tank that catalyzes innovation through citizen empowerment and technology. From C-Minds, Costanza works with governments and institutions in the development of public policy and programs on issues of digital transformation, seeking to enhance the benefits of new technologies in emerging countries. Costanza was recognized as a global shaper by the World Economic Forum, named Climate Champion by the British Council, Gifted Citizen by Ciudad de IA's Ideas, won the Grand Impact Challenge to attend Singularity University, and was selected for the British government's International Leadership Program. Constanza, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be with you.
And this episode of the Blockcast is brought to you by the World Ethical Data Forum. Visit them online at www.worlddataforum.com. The World Data Forum is a world-leading platform for discussion of the ethics and development of decentralized technologies. It's being held at the World Trade Center in Barcelona this September 19th and 20th. This event will cover topics including innovation in the blockchain, the crypto economy, mass data, artificial intelligence, and much, much more. So be sure to check it out. So I was putting together some notes for our show with the team, and your resume is absolutely impressive. Can you start just by giving myself and the audience a little bit about your background and what ignited your involvement with social entrepreneurship?
Sure. Well, since I was little, I was quite concerned of all the challenges and all the inequalities of my country, especially in Mexico. As you know, we have one of the richest men and a growing economy, while at the same time, we have a bottom of the pyramid that has quite big challenges, both in mobility, security, access to health. And all these public services that are not necessarily decentralized and democratized in a way to have an inclusive country. So I was very lucky enough to meet wonderful people and teams throughout my early professional life. I co-founded C-Minds when I was 19, and it started from a project that spun out from the university into an international innovation agency where we work discovering how new technologies can help boost economic and social development in a more inclusive way, especially for Mexico and especially for other emerging economies.
Wow, that sounds great. And I'm very interested. I've been an entrepreneur since a young age myself, and I know there's a lot of new things coming out with the advent of benefit B corporations. And what specifically defines social entrepreneurship, and what role does a social entrepreneur play in the global business landscape?
For us, social entrepreneurship has a mission to help solve a problem, a social or public problem. So it is important to understand that the company has utilities and has growth and has the same business model as in any other company. The difference for us is that the main goal is to help solve a social problem. So here in Mexico, there's a growing ecosystem for social entrepreneurship. I know that internationally as well, social entrepreneurship has been a more sustainable way to tackle social problems than, for example, in the past social non-for-profits. We actually in C-Minds, we are a mix of both the social entrepreneurship for-profit and a non-for-profit.
What kind of KPIs are you measuring progress with? I mean, is it I know standard businesses, the general KPIs are customers, profit. Is there any other sort of KPIs that you're tracking to measure that impact on a social level?
Well, yeah, for us, we're project-based. So basically, we consider ourselves an incubator of processes and projects and pilots that are then scaled into laws, policies, or spin-out companies. So for us, every project has its own KPI depending on the topic we're managing. For example, in our projects where we used technology and gamification to help solve public transportation issues for Mexico City, our KPIs were, well, was the data set achieved? Was how many people were involved? How many people are impacted in more than the 14 million daily trips the public transportation in Mexico City has?
Right.
So it's more of depending what topic. And right now we're very invested in how AI and blockchain can help solve public processes and public challenges. So now our question will be, well, how does AI compare to other more traditional or as business as usual? How does AI or blockchain help lower costs, impact more people, and democratize public services, for example?
I see you won the Grand Impact Challenge to attend Singularity University. I've followed Singularity for a long time and have been very interested in a lot of the work they do. And for all of you in the audience that don't know, Singularity University is a Silicon Valley think tank that offers educational programs and a business incubator focusing on scientific progress and exponential technologies. It was founded in 2008 by Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil at the NASA Research Park in California. Again, Ray Kurzweil is one of the lead innovators at Google. So definitely very interested to hear kind of your experience at Singularity and what brought you and what got you so interested in attending.
Sure. So, yeah, I was fortunate enough. I won the Impact Challenge here in Mexico for the work in mobility. Specifically for that case study, what we did was Mexico City, the government did not have the open a data set, not even open, it didn't have the data set for all the public transportation bus system. So just to get a context of what this means, it is the largest public bus system of the world. It
Wow.
has more than 1,400 trajectories. It has more than 14 million bus rides per day in a metropolitan city of more than 21 million people. So as you can imagine, when we realized that the data for these trajectories did not exist, and that the government had done their job. They had made a law where it establishes that every bus has to have a sensor, to have a real-time data flow.
Right.
But then we asked, like, how long will this take? And they answered 6 years, because of, that's how long implementation sometimes takes for laws and to kick in. So we decided to join forces with the government, and we formed an incredible working group with civil society, academy, advocates, government agencies to gamify the crowdsourcing of the entire bus system trajectory. So in less than 17 days, we achieved what the government was going to do in 6 years.
Wow.
This was because we know how to leverage exponential technologies. So that specific case study got me the prize. I attended Singularity University. That was mind-blowing in a sense, where it made us grow in both scope and reach in using other exponential technologies and integrating them into our work for social change and public change in emerging economies. And starting from there, we became very tailored made into exploring how AI and blockchain and Internet of Things and drones and all of these very sexy buzzwords, what does
Right.
it really mean when we're talking about challenges in emerging economies, such as corruption, such as mobility, such as crime, and such as the lack of access people have to health services. So we gave C-Minds a spin, and now we're 100% dedicated to explore the merge on policy and implementation to understand the reach and the possibilities that exponential technologies bring into the social realm.
Wow, yeah, that's phenomenal. I mean, just given all of your knowledge and research on these topics, I know everyone thinks AI, there's a big debate out there. Is it good? Is it bad? I mean, just in your mind, how developed are these technologies and how far are we away from, sentient AI or things like that, of that nature?
I think well the thing that it's good right now, and at least in Mexico, is now we're starting to have a public debate on what is AI. We understand that we're in the very early stages of this AI revolution. And it is exactly in this time where we have to question ourselves, not only what is AI, but what will it be used for? And more specifically for C-Minds is what are the ethical and social implications of AI? And how will the evolution of this technology affect not only labor, but also, all the ethical questions around it, such as a bias, such as who and why are certain decisions being taken over. So we seem amazing that we're going to be able to rely on these type of technologies to aid humans having a more
Right.
effective, for example, policy making and more effective, um, problem solving. But in a sense, we're very early on the ethical debate, and I'm a very strong advocate on accelerating this ethical debate to go at the same rhythm as the advancements of technology. And I also am very, not only curious, but also very committed in understanding how the government institutions can also understand in a more accelerated way the evolution of this technology. Because in a sense, the government is a crucial actor for both the direction, harnessing the opportunities of AI, and thus needs to understand what it is.
Right.
So I do believe we're in a very early stage. And in Latin America, we're starting to have this as a center of the public debate, which will, in a sense, bootstrap us into this
Right.
international ecosystem.
And in your opinion, are there any significant differences in the approach of AI and decentralized technologies by Latin American nations compared with, the U.S. or even some of the developed European nations?
Even though it's a more nascent ecosystem in a sense, the ecosystem is growing. It's exponentially, basically. The thing with Latin America and countries like Mexico is that we have a growing population, and when you have a country with 120 million people, and in an emerging economy where we're avid to have more services and more products that are more personalized to people, then you have a quite big demand for these type of services. And when you have a big demand, then the supply follows. And thus the startup ecosystem and the big company ecosystem for AI, at least in Mexico, has been growing
Right.
exponentially and duplicating every year.
And how do you see AI and blockchain working in the Mexican government?
So this year we had the opportunity to lead, together with Oxford Insights and the British Embassy in Mexico, a study that was a white paper to understand what were the opportunities and the threats and risks for AI and how to harness AI on the policy level. So from that white paper, what happened is that the national government developed a 2018 AI agenda. And I'm quite proud to say that that put us in the international map. We're one of the first 10 countries to have one. However, in Mexico, we're living a political transition where elections kicked in this year. So now the challenge is how to work with the new administration for the next 6 years and how to develop an AI strategy. So there's certain components that are quite interesting that are happening now in Mexico. The first is that even though Mexico had already quite advanced individual and maybe isolated advancements in AI, especially by the industry, which is quite strong, and the basic research on AI. It is the first year that we come together as an ecosystem to help address these questions on how to create a national AI strategy. So, C-Minds co-founded together with other wonderful organizations, company, embassies, and governments an AI coalition,
Hmm.
have a multi-sector vision towards this revolution, AI revolution, and to push for deeper questions and what to do on both the ethics and the social impact side. So this coalition, what we're doing actually right now is that we have an open consultation process on every state in Mexico to ask people what do they understand with AI. So to understand the perception and to understand, what Mexico feels as an ecosystem on AI. Are you afraid? Are you curious? Are you excited? Like, how will AI impact your life? And then we have the deeper question for AI experts, understanding what does Mexico and specifically what does the government have to do for a policy and the public agenda to really ensure that not only they push for an 4.0 industry, AI based industry, but also that the government is using this technology to create a better public service effort and to democratize public services. So the consultation is one. Second is at C-Minds, we founded this year the AI for Good Lab, where we're pushing for a national debate on ethics in AI. So we're crowdsourcing the principles of AI bottom up. We're working. We already worked with the Mexico City. We're going to work with other 3 cities this year to really get on the debate and have this debate with every sector on what are the implications of AI and what do we do with this. So hopefully early next year, we will be working together with amazing institutions to create protocols for AI. Mm-hmm. And as well, we're working with local governments to start to test the power of AI for public innovation.
Well, yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, it's interesting to see the government's role and how it's going to shape blockchain technology, AI technologies. I know the government's very slow moving, so I really like your insight on the fact that, hopefully they start embracing this technology to kind of help shift that policy change as well. And given your deep knowledge in the transportation sector, what are the limitations of AI and blockchain technologies in improving transportation, in your opinion? In particular, pollution from transportation, which I know is of grave concern in Mexico City, or other important public challenges.
So for us, the question is not necessarily the technical capacity, because we know that AI, with systems that we've seen all around the globe that are rising, AI is an amazing tool to create more effective protocols and have a data-based decision making with enhanced by AI that basically can process all of the data that exists, and it can recommend certain transportation policies. The biggest challenge, I think, in Mexico is not the technology, is rather the culture change. Like, how do we get people to understand the power of AI and to harness this technology in their procedures and their government procedures? So it's more of a culture change. And second is more of a coordination challenge. So understanding that AI brings wonders into more data-driven decision policymaking. The fact is, in Mexico, such as in a lot of countries, there is a collaboration challenge between government ministries, and between government and the civil society, for example. Mm-hmm. So asking specific questions on what do we want AI to solve specifically for public transportation, like understanding the problem definition. And that problem definition process has to come with a collaboration with citizens, users, experts, and the government. And then understanding how AI can be a tool to help solve certain problems for that is more of the ecosystem challenge I see, not necessarily the tech tool.
Right. Yeah. It seems like distributed ledger technology and blockchain in general is much more of a collaborative technology than some of the predecessors in technology that we've had. In specific for distributed technology, what's its role in being an effective tool for government services?
What we love about the distributed ledger technology is it comes with the evolution of trust. Normally, the citizens, especially and in emerging economies, the trust between citizens and government is completely broken. So right. When you have a context that you have the distrust between every sector and almost any actor, then technology and distributed ledgers come in hand, because you don't need to trust people. Actually, the network trust comes because of this distrust. Right. So we have the result is having a systemic trust that comes around using these new technologies. So specifically for Mexico and other emerging economies, I see a great opportunity, and actually it's the question we're asking right now as C-Minds, is how can we use this technology for a very specific pain point of trust between citizens and government, and a very prone to corruption process, which is public procurement processes. So the contracts the government gives to companies and to actors. It has been a really big red flag for Mexico in corruption. Right. For the past n number of years. So what happens when you use these type of technologies and you start to automate not only processes, but know in a sense that all the information you put inside can be traceable, can be completely reliable, and in a sense gives citizens and governments, this trustworthiness and understanding the impact this can have in public procurement is huge. So that is a question we're asking right now, and actually in the next months piloting with what does it mean, not in rhetoric but in action. And at the beginning of next year, we will be having a white paper on the lessons learned on this.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I really like that you touched on that. I think people don't talk about it enough. I think the big role and the big innovation here is that trust factor, is the transparency factor of distributed technologies. And I think that's going to play a very central role in how they evolve. And you seem to be involved in so many different aspects of technology, social innovation, so many different projects. Can you give us, the audience, just a sample of what a day in the life is for you?
Very adrenalinic. You come into a meeting of AI that is with 43 government ministries, which are very excited to play with this new technology and actually are very open to collaborate in this. And then you have a meeting that you're seeing the pains of using distributed ledgers, because in Mexico we don't have maybe the regulatory framework that will allow it. So discovering what is the regulatory framework, and then understanding how can you do a pilot case that proves the return of investment for government on this. And then the next meeting is understanding the lessons learned from the past 6 years from the government officers that will leave right now and for the new administration to come in. Understanding that they did an amazing job in the digital transformation agenda for Mexico. So trying to understand the lessons learned and take those lessons learned to the next government. So as you can see, we're going into very diverse topics throughout the day. But in a sense, what unites everything is that the fact that if we really want to transform emerging economies in how they harness new technologies for social good, then we do need to understand the different perspectives, both from the academy, the government, the public in general, and civil society. And we do have to understand the pains each sector is living and the power of each of the technologies. So being involved in different complementary discussions gives C-Minds this, more macro view, and allows us to become knowledge brokers between projects and between sectors, and also helps us understand in the macro level how can a national policy of new technologies help bring change to the very local world. So working both with the local context and the national context allows us to go in and out of macro and micro conversations.
Right. That's very interesting. I'm very interested to kind of see what the next few years at C-Minds looks like, and a lot of the programs that you're involved in. And for our audience here, if you were to focus on one study or one aspect of blockchain today, what would it be and why? A lot of our audience is newcomers to blockchain. Where would you focus your study? A certain technology, certain platform, certain level of study? What would it be?
For us, it would be understanding for decision makers in general. We work with a lot of decision makers in a lot of fields, and for us, the most important part right now is to understand the basics of the technology, why this technology is having a systemic shift in how trust is managed and how relationships between institutions is completely changing because of the components and the factors behind this technology. And understanding what they can do with this new paradigm shift. So we're more on the what can be done possibilities and how it will affect our daily life, right, than getting very deep into technical aspects. Because if we do take this technology to mainstream conversations, then the adoption, the acceptance, and the acceleration will move quite faster on every sector and every discipline.
Got it. Okay, so having more of an understanding of the broad range of the technology versus really digging in on specifics. And eventually maybe digging on the specific once you have a general basis.
Definitely. And understanding in those specifics, for example, understanding how Ethereum and, for example, Hyperledger Fabric and all the other technologies, how do they respond to different challenges, and which one is better, right, for a particular context and why. And not just assuming that one because it has maybe more trajectory, or B, the other one because it has a better, it's the current marketing. just not going with the flow, but understanding that each one can help solve a problem in a different way, and it has its both opportunities and limits. So choosing, understanding these differences and understanding the best qualities of each has, at least for us, gave us more tools to decide how to manage pilots using blockchain technologies.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's so many different smart contract platforms out there. Hyperledger is very interesting to me by the Linux Foundation. So it's going to be very interesting to see which platform wins. It's kind of like we're at the beginnings of the internet, where you had Ask Jeeves, Alta Vista, Google, Yahoo, and then there was slowly a maturation of the industry. Perfect. Well, Constanza, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Blockcast. It was a very insightful talk for me, specifically. Really enjoyed the range of social innovations that you're working on, and looking forward to kind of see what the future brings. And for everyone that wants to follow Constanza online, you could visit Constanza's agency, cminds.co. Again, that's www.cminds.co to kind of keep up to date on a lot of the new projects they have launching. Thank you again for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. A pleasure.
And this episode is also brought to you by BitDepository. Visit them online at bitdepository.io. BitDepository is a platform bridging the gap between centralized ICOs and a community of investors through voting and integrated payment solutions. You can follow them online. Their beta launch is later this month, so be sure to visit them at bitdepository.io.